What is up, everyone? It's David. Welcome back to Gem Mint MTG, where we talk about graded Magic the Gathering cards. Today is another episode of the Graded Magic the Gathering Market Review, where I'm going to review real-world sales that took place in the marketplace and go over them, talk about the cards, talk about why I think they're interesting sales, go over the multiples, the selling prices, and things like that. Before we get into all that stuff, if you're not already a subscriber here and you enjoy graded Magic the Gathering content, hit that subscribe button and join in the fun. I'm going to be talking about graded cards all the time here on Gem Mint MTG. All right, let's get right into this first card. Starting off here with the Obelisk of Undoing. So I'm going from set name order. I had to figure out a way to organize these. So we're going in set order, selling price order. So we'll get started off here with the A's, Antiquities. All of these cards that we're going to be reviewing today are BGS 9 mints. There's so many cards to go over that I have to split this up into different sections because there's just so much to talk about, and I don't want to make hour-long videos, so we're going to try to get through all the BGS 9s here. Getting started off here with the Obelisk of Undoing from Antiquities. This card sold for $100. Near mint, these are running about $18, so when you add on the grading fee, your multiple's about 1.89. It's not out of the range for a BGS 9, typically those do sell in like that 25 to 50% premium, but I'm starting to see, and we'll see more examples of this, cards fetching even stronger premiums in the 1.5 to 2x range, and maybe even higher than that. But pretty good sale on the Obelisk of Undoing. Next card here, you know him, you love him, the Argivian Archaeologist. So this is a BGS 9 quad plus. Very nice card, great subgrades. It's a very beautiful card that when you actually look at the photographs of it, really nice card. This card sold for $735. Near mint, these are not available. I tried. I think that there's a lot of Antiquities and Arabian Nights cards getting bought out right now, but I was not able to find a good looking near mint card. But I think if I could, they'd be around $350. So when you adjust for the grading fee, it gives you a multiple of 1.91. Again, a very strong multiple. Antiquities has been really hot lately, and this is a very popular card. I've talked about this card before on this channel, so I'm not going to go over it too much, but I think when there's a public buyout of a card and there's people that hold hundreds of copies of it that will never hit the market, I certainly think that affects the price of the card, and I think that's happening here with the Archaeologist. Moving on to Arabian Nights. Check this out. This Army of Allah, the dark version, BGS 9 Quad Plus, sold for $269. Near mint, these are about $54. I thought it was interesting if you look at the screenshot there below, that's a PSA 8 that sold for $61. $61 for a PSA 8, $270 for a PSA for a BGS 9. I know that there is the different versions of the dark and the light Arabian Nights cards. I personally don't know too much about that. If that does make this card a lot more rare or a lot more valuable, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I just personally don't know enough about that to really comment. But this sale was crazy. 3.03x. I think that might have something to do with the fact that it's a dark version of the card. But also, it's a 9 Quad Plus Arabian Nights cards. Those cards are very hot. They're very hard to find. And Arabian Nights in particular always fetches a really strong premium. For example, here's another example. Aladdin's Lamp. This Aladdin's Lamp sold for $269. These sales are getting crazy. I can't believe the prices on some of these BGS 9s. Near mint, these are running about 140, multiple 1.6x. So you can see all of these BGS 9s have been very strong from Antiquities and Arabian Nights. The premiums have been very good on these. People are starting to get really attracted to these cards. These weird ones here. Let's hop to the next one. Aladdin's Ring sold for $350. These are about $129 on average. Adjust for the grading fee, $164, multiple of 2.12. So you can see the Army of Allah, the Aladdin's Lamp, the Aladdin's Ring. All of these are selling for really good premiums. These are not BGS 9.5s. They're BGS 9s, and they're fetching very good premiums. And that's after the near mint prices have increased so much recently. I remember buying Aladdin's rings and Aladdin's lamp for like $10 to $20, like not that long ago, a year or two ago, and now these cards are selling for over $100 each. So it's just crazy. These Arabian cards are getting extremely expensive. Like this one, I've talked about this card before. I'm going to share a little bit more of my thoughts, but I won't say everything I've already said again. But Singing Tree from Arabian Nights, this 9 basic plus, it had 8.5 on the centering, 9.5 on the edges and the surface. So it is a nice looking card. This card sold for $675. Near mint, the average is $700, but what I've talked about before is this card in particular, I am a little concerned. I don't know if concerned is the right word, but I just feel like the price is a bit inflated, and I could see this retracting a bit. Near mint for $700. I mean, it was not that long ago that near mint these were like $100 to $150, like literally 12 months ago, maybe even less. And it's just been bought out. The asking prices have been going up and up and up. And I think it's going to be interesting to see if near mints actually sell for $700. I personally think that this is maybe a $200 or $300 card, and that multiple would then be, you know, over 1 but under 2. I think that is more fair than saying, you know, the near mint average on this is $700. That's what people are asking for. I'd just be surprised if that price holds, just because way more than other cards, this card has increased in value. Moving on to the Bazaar of Baghdad. So this BGS 9 sold for $3,333. Near mint, they're about $3,400. So the multiple's 0.97, but it's pretty much, it's not too much of a premium for this card. And I've talked about this before. Generally, when you get to a higher near mint average price for the card, you don't get the same kind of multiple that you do with cards that are lower in value. Generally, the higher the value of the card, the more likely the multiple is to be lower. And that's just because of the effect on your wallet. Like some of these cards we saw sell for 1.5 or 2x multiple on a BGS 9. I mean, that would put this card at $5,000, $6,000. And you're just not going to get that for a BGS 9 Bazaar of Baghdad. Especially one like this. I felt like this card did not present particularly well. I feel like the edge grade of 9 was a little bit generous with the wear, especially on the top edge. And then some of the corners got a 9. Like the corners got a 9, but some of the corner wear looks pretty apparent to me. So I felt like not only was this a generously graded card that probably would not have got this grade, more recently, but also it's a very expensive card, and generally you're not going to get a 50% to 100% premium on a card that already costs, $3,000 to $4,000. Moving on, so now we're going to move on to beta cards, starting off here with Natural Selection. So this is a quad plus, perfectly centered, 9.5, 9 on all the other grades. This card sold for $680. Now near mint, once again, could not find any. Card Kingdom had them at $750. I think that this was a great sale. I think whoever got this card got a steal of a deal. I definitely think that it was worth the price. This multiple of 0.87, I could see this card getting restocked in the $800 range. It's a rare from beta on the reserve list, and it's a quad plus. So selling price is $680. Good job, whoever got this. I think you got a fantastic deal. Moving on to Exodus, getting started off here with the City of Traitors. This card sold for $314, and your multiple on this, with the average price around $275, your multiple is about 1.02, and not too much to say here. There's a lot of times when a BGS 9, especially on a card like this in a set that's printed a lot more than a set like Arabian Nights or Legends or something, you're not going to get a huge premium usually on cards like this. So seeing just a slight premium for the card plus the grading fee doesn't surprise me all that much. Now, cards like this, Exodus, so this is a basic plus, plus, plus. So you can see it has 9.5 centering, edges, surface, 8.5 on the corner. So aside from the corner where this is a very, very, very nice card. And cards like this, like I've talked about before, when you start sliding the other way down the spectrum where the card near mint average is lower, a lot of times the multiple will be higher because it's just less overall dollars. If you have $120 to spend on a card, you can get a card like this. You cannot get a City of Traitors. You cannot get a Singing Tree. You cannot get an Army of Allah. But you know the effect on your wallet is going to be a lot less with a card that costs $47. So generally on cards like that, you can see higher multiples just because the overall dollars are less. But I love cards like this. I've talked about it before. Silver Age reserve list cards are one of my favorite things to collect. I think they have a great future. I feel like the multiple was pretty high on this one, but I think the floor on a card like this is fairly high. I don't think a BGS 9 Hatred from Exodus would ever drop much or at all below, $100, $125, as opposed to a Singing Tree from Arabian Nights for $700. That is a card that, I personally could see retracing down to $400 or $500. So that's just my thoughts on the card. Okay, moving on here I put these two together because this is just crazy. I couldn't even believe these sales. We're looking at two revised cards. We already talked about Aladdin's Ring and Aladdin's Lamp from Arabian Nights that sold for $300 to $350, around there, with pretty good multiples. Look at this. These are revised copies of Aladdin's Ring and Aladdin's Lamp in BGS 9 condition. These are revised cards. These are not 9.5s. These are just regular BGS 9s from revised. These are more or less bulk rares. You can literally buy these cards for $1 in near mint condition and get adjust for the grading fee. I put $36.25 because literally they're $1.25 a piece. Multiple of 2.45. I see sales like this and I can't even believe what I'm seeing. Part of me is confused. Part of me thinks it's awesome. And part of me is just like, can't believe it. Like, I've talked about it before. The market is changing. How we've defined, vintage Magic cards in the past and what's worth grading and collecting, I think is slowly changing. And I think cards like this are a perfect example of that. I mean, look at the Siobhan Dragon that I talked about in the last video. I mean, these are cards that people are picking up, grading, and making awesome money on. I mean, these are some of the strongest multiples, and when you're talking about buying and selling cards, that really is the factor. Like, how much percentage are you going to make on the card? Like, if someone told you they were going to make, they were going to grade an Aladdin's Ring or an Aladdin's Lamp from revised, you would think they were crazy. But what if they told you then, hey, I bought this card for $1, I sent it in for economy grading for $10, I turned my $11 into $90. I 8x'd my money. Like, it's just crazy. Like, and for whoever bought this, I'm not saying that it was a bad idea. I think cards like this are cool. I don't know if I personally would have bought these. I mean, I didn't, but I'm glad to see that there is a market for cards like this. I'm very, very much a believer in different strokes for different folks. If this card appealed to you and you felt like it was worth $90 and you bought them, and that's for each, just to be clear, each of these was $90. They were both purchased. And I don't know what else I can say aside from what I've already said, but I just thought these were very interesting, and I think a sign of how the market for graded cards is changing. There is a strong demand for vintage Magic cards, even if they're not reserve list or from ABU Four Horsemen sets. Moving on, another one. Look at this. Revised. Balance. $120. Near mint, these are $4. Adjust for the grading fee, $39. 3x their money. on a $4 card. Sold it for $120. It's not a quad. And this is just another thing. People want graded vintage Magic cards. They don't have to be reserve list. They don't have to be ABU 4 Horsemen. This is another example. This was a crazy sale. Like if you would have said, 2-3 years ago, oh, would you want to buy a BGS 9 balance for $120? That would have been crazy. No one would even, I don't think anybody would have even thought of that as a good deal. But I'm seeing stuff like this more and more, particularly with Revised. Let's look at another example. Crusade, $230. Near mint, these are $25. Grading fee $60, multiple 3.83. These revised cards are getting hot. People are very interested in these cards. I'm not going to say everything I already said about the Aladdin's Lamp, the Aladdin's Ring, and the Balance, but everything I said about those applies to this Crusade. And additionally, we know that this is one of the sensitivity cards that is not being sold anymore, so they're very hard to find in near mint condition. So this one doesn't particularly surprise me because it's very hard to find this card. There's a lot of uncertainty about whether or not you can grade it and who will grade it and all this stuff. So a card like this, it kind of has become a notorious iconic card that you can't even buy anymore. So I'm not too surprised to see, a crazy sale on a card like this. But the Balance and the Aladdin's Lamp and the Aladdin's Ring, that's crazy. Just crazy. Because you look at cards like this, moving on to the Savannah from Revised, sold for $525. Near mint, they're about $422. Multiple 1.15. This is much more common for what you see with Revised, especially dual lands. Like dual lands always sell for, between 1 and maybe 1.5 on something like a, quad plus Underground Sea or something like that. Like you're not going to get 2x. No one's going to buy a BGS 9 Savannah for $1,100 or something like that. It's not going to happen. So moving on to Stronghold. Get us starting off here with Sliver Queen. So this Sliver Queen sold for $477. It's a quad plus. Near mint, these are about $285. It's a multiple of 1.49, so about a 50% premium for this card. I think that I thought this was a good deal. If you've watched my channel for a while, I've tried to grade this card 3 times. I've never got over an 8.5. I got 7.5, 8, and 8.5. And all 3 of them I felt like were in good condition, great condition, mint condition. But this card is really hard to find in really, really good condition. This is an extremely popular card to play with. Everybody loves the Sliver Queen. And it's just getting very, very hard to find cards like this. I personally think this card's retraced a lot lately. This card was selling for, I think like well over $300, close to $400 at one point. This card in particular has retraced quite a bit down to like the $250 to $275, $285 range for near mint. And I think that this is going to be a $350, $400 card again eventually, and maybe even up to like $400 or $500 in a few years. So I felt like a 9 quad plus for $477, even though it's 50% premium for the card. I think the card's undervalued. I thought this was a great sale. I really do. Same thing with this Mox Diamond. I mean, this Mox, it's 8.5 centering, 9.5 on the surface and corners, 9 on the edges. It presents very well. It's really good. I felt like that 8.5 centering might have been a little bit harsh. I've seen a lot of 9 centerings that look like this and that would have made this a 9 quad plus. But selling for about $1,200, it's a high price. It's a high multiple for a BGS 9, but I do feel like this is a $1,000 card one day. I feel like that day is coming, whether it's in a week, a month, a year, or 2 years. I think that's going to happen at some point. It's too iconic. It's too powerful. Reserved lists. It's just got everything going for it. Moving on to Unlimited. Let's go over this card, the Copper Tablet. Copper Tablet sold for $81. It's a true quad, 9 on everything. Really nice card. Near mint, these are about $27. Multiple 1.3. Pretty standard stats there. Berserk from Unlimited. This card sold for 325. Near mint, they're running about 250. Multiple 1.14. Really beautiful card. Exactly what you'd expect in terms of a multiple. Not too much to say here. Not a reserve list card. Illusionary Mask from Unlimited. Now, this is an interesting one. This card sold for $450. Near mint, these are about $335. Adjust for the grading fee, gives you a multiple of 1.22. So not out of the range of what you expect, but I've talked about this card before. I just can't believe how much this card has increased in value. Over the last year or two, I picked up a BGS. I have a BGS 9 of this card that I got for I think it was like $180. Like literally less than a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, not that long ago. And this card is it's aged very well. It's such a weird card. It has such a unique ability. I'm not going to try to explain it in this episode. If you have a free time one afternoon and you want to learn how this card works, it's very interesting. It's fun to play. It has amazing, weird, kooky art by Amy Weber. Just a very unique, interesting card. And a card like this, one of the things that I've been thinking about is there's been a lot of talk lately about collectibles, cards, stocks, all these things that have been, collapsing in value. If you're into stocks, which I personally am, I follow the stock market a lot, and collectibles as well, Magic cards in particular. But there's so many asset classes, whether it's sealed booster boxes or singles or individual stocks, just the general S&P 500 and every other major stock index. Over the last 4 to 6 months, they've completely crashed. They've lost 30, 40, 50% of their value. But graded Magic cards, particularly vintage graded Magic cards, have only increased in value through that entire time. As I've been doing these market reviews very in depth, and as I've generated data for the graded multiplier videos, I've been tracking this stuff all the time for over a year now. And while many other asset classes have done terrible over the last 6 months, particularly sealed product, individual singles, stocks, cryptocurrencies, vintage graded Magic cards have held very strong and or increased in value considerably. And I just think it's a testament to the strength and stability of the market. You're not seeing these prices crash like you are with a lot of other asset classes. These cards are getting even more expensive. They're getting more sought after. You're not seeing tons of them dumped onto the market. There's a lot of market activity, but it's being swallowed up by the market. People are purchasing these cards for very good prices. And I think it's great. I think it's great that in a world of turbulence, if you're here, you're watching this and you like things like this, I think you can, be happy knowing that these are solid investments. These cards have a good future. They have a good home now. And I think, all of us who are into this are going to do well, are going to continue to do well. I think the market is very, very strong. Okay, all right, moving on to Unlimited Time Walk. So this is a BGS 9 Quad Plus. Absolutely beautiful card. 9 centering, 9 corners, 9 edges, 9.5 on the surface. This card sold for $8,300. Extremely hard to find true near mint ungraded raw copies, but they're about $7,700 on average. Adjust for the grading fee, gives you a multiple of 1.07. So I talked about this before with the Bazaar of Baghdad. Generally, the higher you get in overall value of the card, the lower of the multiple that you're going to get. You're not going to have a 2 or 3x multiple like we saw in these crazy revised cards that are worth $1 selling for 90. But just because a 1.5 multiple on this card would make it a $12,000 card. A 2x multiple would make it a $14,000 card. No one's going to pay that for a BGS 9 Time Walk. you're going to get a smaller multiple because the person selling it is making, more overall dollars, and you're spending more overall dollars. Okay, and the last card of this market review, Yavimaya Hollow from Urza's Destiny. This BGS 9 Quad Plus Plus sold for $200. The multiple on this card, 1.63. So a pretty good premium on this card. It is a 9 Quad Plus Plus. I think that does add value. And I love this card. I personally have a number of copies of this card. It's a card that I've been buying for a while. I think that these reserved list lands from the Urza's block and the Stronghold block, cards like Volrath's Stronghold, Lotus Veil, Yavimaya Hollow, I just think that the future is really, really bright for cards like this, particularly among newer collectors. Being able to get a 9 Quad Plus Plus, vintage Magic the Gathering reserved list land like this for a couple $100, I think is awesome. I think the floor on a card like this is very high, and I think the future is very bright. That's the last card that we're going to go through today. If you're not already a subscriber here and you enjoy content like this, you love graded Magic the Gathering cards as much as I do, I would really appreciate your subscription. I'm going to be talking about graded cards all the time here on Gemmint MTG. Next episode is going to be reviewing more cards sold in the marketplace. We still have to go through PSAs. We got to go through BGS 9.5s. All of that is still to come. I'll see you then. Till next time, have a great one.